What a game of rugby. 28 points to Toulon, 27 to the Stormers. This game really went down to the wire, but that's what the Champions Cup is all about. I know in the last few seasons we've seen a lot of games, just a lot of walkovers, a lot of whitewashes in these Champions Cup round of 16 games and the quarterfinals. But now it's looking really, really competitive at the top, and the South African teams have brought both their strongest teams, and it was just such a good Saturday of rugby. I mean, there were some really good games. I mean, Toulouse versus Bristol, that was a big win for Toulouse. Then Bath versus Saracens, big name derbies. Glasgow versus Bulls, which is becoming a little bit of a URC derby now as well. So that game was really entertaining to watch. And now Stormers versus Toulon in Toulon. A few years ago, I would never think that these teams would be playing against each other, which just makes it so exciting because I grew up in South Africa watching this Toulon team that had Juan Smith, Donnie Rousseau, Brian Abana, Matt Gito, Johnny Wilkinson, Drew Mitchell, Ma'ananu, Joshua Tuisova, and all these phenomenal players. Joe Fanica, I can't forget that name there. Some phenomenal Toulon players. And Ma'ananu, by the way, still playing. Had a bit of an impact in maybe not the best way in the game, but seeing these teams playing against each other is just so fun to watch. And I think if the South African teams can keep taking this tournament seriously and actually playing their best players, this is what we want to see. This is what the people that kind of had the idea of bringing the South African teams, this is the idea they had. This is what is actually working out for them. So it was really good to see both their strongest teams playing, seeing guys like Damian Willemse going up against guys like Charles Olivon, seeing Ivan Roos going up against a guy like David Ribbons, who could potentially be a Springbok in the future. I mean, he is playing extremely good rugby recently and hasn't played for England for a while, so maybe could get a call up to the Springboks himself. But overall, I'd say it was a positive day for both sides. I mean, first of all, Toulon went into this game as the favourites, but they haven't been in the best form in their own top 14 league themselves. I think they're 11th on the table there right now, which for Toulon is a bit unheard of. They've got some really good players. I mean, Kyle Sinclair, David Ribbons, Charles Olivon, Gail Drion, some really good players in this team. Juan Ignacio Briggs, Thomas Albanos, Ben White, some really good players, and they just haven't been finding that success. So winning a game like this against a very good Stormers team who actually pitched up on the day is really big for the Stormers, for this Toulon team right now. But as well for the Stormers, they've been on a really big slump recently. So for them to go to Toulon and actually be competitive until the final minute of the game, and even 2 minutes past that to the 82nd minute of the game, was a really big plus for the Stormers team right now. And I think they will take a lot from this game, a lot of learnings. They'll take it forward so that they don't want to feel this way again, because you could see after the game the Stormers players were really heartbroken. This game meant a lot to them, and that's what you love to see in a tournament like this. I was happy for the Toulon team. I was very upset with the Stormers team. Either way, if Stormers won, I would have been happy for them and upset for Toulon as well, because both teams were in a bit of a weird situation right now where both teams, this win would have meant so much to them. But either or, I think it worked out the right way, that Toulon probably was the better team on the day. The Stormers put up a really good fight, and you could see that the Stormers are slowly getting back to going towards their best, which is very good for this team. But where did Toulon actually ultimately find success? Now, I've gone through the stats, I've gone through a lot of the game footage. First of all, the higher 22 conversion rate. Now, this just shows that Toulon was much more clinical in the opposition 22. They had 8 22-meter entries and averaged 3.5 points per entry. So every single time Toulon entered the Stormers 22, the opposition 22, they left with more points than a penalty goal, which is very good at this level of rugby. Stormers had 9 entries but only averaged 2.67 points per entry, which is still a pretty good stat. I mean, if you're averaging above 2.5 per entry and you're getting more than 9 entries, you're going to be scoring a lot of points in the game. And normally if you are scoring 27 to 28 points in a game like this, you're going to be close to winning. It's going to be a tight game. So overall, Stormers did well to still get their 9 entries with 2.67 points per entry, but Toulon with 8 entries and a 3.5 average points per entry is a very, very good statistic. It just shows how clinical they were in the opposition 22. And it did feel that way. I did feel like every single time Toulon got into the Stormers 22, they were leaving with points or they were scoring a try. And sometimes it almost felt like Stormers had to work very hard for their tries and for their points. And then for some reason, there would just be a lapse in focus, and the Toulon team would just score not an easy try, but it looked like an easy try because they were just so clinical every time they got an opportunity. And Toulon made 8 line breaks and Stormers only made 3. So on the attacking side, Toulon really did make the difference, where they were more clinical in the opposition 22 with getting points, and they had more line breaks, which, if you do have line breaks, you get more opportunities, more front football, get the opposition on the back foot. And that's just where tries and opportunities come from. Looking at the defensive standpoint for the game, Toulon had more dominant tackles with 12, and Stormers only had 6 dominant tackles. Now, what do dominant tackles actually do? Now, dominant tackles can really stop the momentum of a team if they're looking good, if they're actually getting over the advantage line. One dominant tackle can really just change that whole momentum, which could force a team to maybe box kick the ball away because they've lost all their momentum. They've lost that kind of continuity on attack. So Toulon having 6 more dominant tackles, having 12 dominant tackles is a lot in a game at this level. They also had more tackle turnovers with 4 tackle turnovers. Stormers had 0. So out of all the tackles Stormers made, they were unable to get a turnover on Toulon's side through all of those tackles. Toulon also had more turnovers won. They won 7 turnovers and Stormers only won 3. So if the Stormers do go back to the drawing board after this game, they will see that maybe getting those dominant tackles against them, getting dominated in the tackle fight 12 times is definitely not acceptable at this level for the Stormers team that kind of prides themselves on physicality as well. Yes, they can run run any team all over, but they are a physically dominant team when they want to be. So getting dominated a bit like that physically by Toulon will be a bit of a worry for them, but it was expected if you look at the Toulon pack and the players they have. But overall, this is just why the game was so exciting, because the Stormers stayed in the fight till the very end, till the 82nd minute of the game. And I will say there were some really big individual performances in this game. So some of the top individual performances: carries, David Ribbons made 16 carries and Ivan Roos made 15. Both of those guys playing some really good rugby right now. I know Rassie Erasmus will be looking at David Ribbons because he hasn't played for England in a while. He is a South African, so if he does maybe get that call up to the 2027 World Cup, I think he can by then, or is it after? You might just see David Ribbons getting a few caps for the Springboks in the next few years, especially if you look at the Springboks lock depth right now. More of the older locks are kind of making up that depth, so getting a few guys in that are a bit younger than those guys could maybe help. And Ivan Roos, honestly, Ivan Roos has been a lot better recently. He made 15 carries, he was all over the stat sheet as well. He made 16 tackles as well. So Ivan Roos had a really good game, and he's been putting up consistent performances recently when it comes to carries, tackles, just overall work rate, dominant with ball in hand, really good decision making. So I think Ivan Roos really is climbing up the radar for that number 8 jersey for the Springboks, or even just getting a spot on the bench or on the squad. Looking at some of the other stats where there were individual performances, Gael Drion made 3 line breaks by himself. He was all over. He had a really good game as well, and he was just very clinical on his right wing. He's the kind of guy that I think could get more game time for France going forward. He did play 1 game for France in the Six Nations. I think it was against Italy when Theo Atesogbe played at fullback, and he had a really good game that day as well. I think I gave him, was it in the 7s or the 8s for that game for his player rating. But Gael Drion is a young player, but a very good player as well. He's definitely one to watch. Looking at the tackle stats, Andre Igufenta, Ivan Roos, and Paul de Villiers all made 16 tackles. 3 young players also putting up their hands for maybe getting that Springbok call up. Andre Igufenta has been really good at the lineouts. His throwing, his set piece has been very good recently. Ivan Roos, I've just spoken about him. He deserves a call up. And of course, Paul de Villiers is one of those guys that I think is a bit of a no-brainer to get a call up this year and make his debut this year. I think he's definitely one that could get that call up this year. Setariki Tuisuva had 8 defenders beaten in this game. That is an incredible stat. 8 defenders beaten for him. Tuisuva, he's a phenomenal player, and I've been watching him for a while, and he's just been he does this on a regular basis where he just beats defenders at will, honestly. So what can both teams take from this game? What kind of positives, negatives, what are the things they'll take forward from this game? Well, for the Stormers, I think the one big positive for them is that they fought till the very end. They actually had a fighting chance till the end away at Toulon, which is a very difficult place to play, a very difficult place to win. I think Toulon is up there with one of the most difficult places you can win in world rugby, even historically, especially at club level. I think the negative is that they lost this game at the end, and I do think the Stormers once again were their worst enemies. Silly mistakes, silly turnovers, maybe a bit clumsy with how they carried into contact. They were maybe a bit high with their ball carries. I did notice this. It's kind of a ongoing theme with the Stormers team, but when guys like Ntutoko Mchunu came on, he really made a good impact, getting those go forward carries, getting that right body position with the carries, which is why they maybe had a chance at the end of the game to maybe pull a win out of the hat. But overall, it was just not meant to be for them on the day. And what can Toulon take from this game? A huge win at home against a very good Stormers team who actually did pitch up a lot better than they have in the last few weeks. Beating a big team like this will be a big confidence boost for the players, and also the fans will be a bit more confident and back on Toulon's side, because obviously they're 11th in their table right now in the top 14. The fans won't be happy with that. Yes, we do know Toulon have very, very loyal and very, very kind of ecstatic fans, and I absolutely love the Toulon fans. By the way, Toulon is one of the places on my bucket list to watch rugby throughout my life, 100%. I think Toulon is probably my favorite France team. I really enjoy the rugby they play, and I just really enjoy the crowd and the atmosphere there. So overall, I think the crowd and the fans will be really happy with that, getting back on the back behind Toulon, focusing on a big push in the Champions Cup. So obviously, if the top 14, they're not going to do the best this year. Hopefully they can end in the top 10. They won't be in the relegation zone, which is good for them. But if this Toulon team can get a bit of success in the Champions Cup, it'll go a long way with the whole club and the fan base. So that'll be really good for them. So overall, a positive for both teams. A negative that the Stormers did lose, but they went to Toulon and took them to the very end of the game. I'm not going to talk about the refereeing decisions because, to be fair, I'm not a professional referee, so I can't talk about anything that happened at the end of the game. But it was a really fun game to watch. I mean, this is what the Champions Cup is all about. Stormers versus Toulon. Can you believe those teams playing against each other right now? Playing their full strength teams. Very exciting rugby. It was a really good game to watch. Toulon versus Glasgow up next. In Glasgow, it's going to be a very tough game for them, but they've got a strong team. If you guys do enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe to help the channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.